She gave me a bag. What are the different functions of the words that are there in this sentence? She, pronoun, gave, me, pronoun, a bag, again a noun phrase, an article, or we can say it's a main determiner. Bag is a noun. What type of a noun? It is a common noun. Then what is gave? Gave tells us that there is certain action that has happened here. Yes, gave is the verb in this sentence. Hello and welcome to Schwa Effortless Learning. Today's lesson is on verbs. Verbs are the words that indicate some action. Also, we know that verbs are the word that can indicate being. So based on that, we can say that verbs are the words that can suggest action, being, becoming, all these things. Now, before we understand the different types of verbs, it's very important to understand that how different nouns and pronouns are getting affected because of the action of the verb. Based on the gravity of the effect, the nouns and pronouns that get affected by the verb can be categorized into direct objects and indirect objects. Indirect objects are the nouns and pronouns that get indirectly affected by the verb. Like for example, she gave the bag to me. So here the action is the giving action. And who's the main doer of the action? She. So she is the subject. Now the bag and I, we are facing the consequences of the action. So the bag is getting directly affected. Hence, the bag would be a direct object, and me, which I'm getting indirectly affected because she is giving the bag to me. So she is taking a bag and performing the action of giving, and I'm the recipient. So the bag is getting the directly affected, so the bag will become the direct object and me is indirect object. Now, based on this fact that how a verb can affect another noun or pronoun which sits in the subject position in a sentence, we can say that the verbs are of two types: transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. There is no hard and fast rule that these sets of verbs are transitive verbs and these sets of verbs are intransitive verbs. We can see that that there are some verbs which can fit into both the categories. To understand that, we need to understand what is the concept of a transitive verb. We see that a transitive verb in a sentence always has an object. So that means the verbs, because of whose action someone or something gets affected, then the effect of it is transited to the verb. So that means the verb is a transitive verb, and the verbs which do not require an object, that means the verbs which do not really need the help of an object to materialize, are intransitive verbs. For example, the doctor gave me some medicine. We can say the doctor gave. What did the doctor give? To whom did the doctor give? We have such questions, right? So the doctor gave me some medicines. So here me and medicines are completing the action of the verb give, and hence these are the direct and indirect objects of the verb give, and that is how we prove that give is a transitive verb in this sentence. Now let's take examples of intransitive verb. Winter is coming. Winter is coming. So here the noun is winter, which sits in the subject position. is coming is coming together makes the verb phrase. Yes, we also have verb phrase. Verb phrase are the verbs, the verbs in a sentence and its components. We'll come to that later. So here is coming has the main verb come, and this come does not really require an object to materialize its complete meaning. So in this case, winter is coming, the verb is an intransitive verb. Very interestingly, you can see that there are two types of verbs in this sentence. Winter is coming. Is and coming. Is and come. We know that verbs are not only the words which denote actions, verbs are also the words which can talk about the state of being. Yes, so intransitive verbs can be used in two ways, to indicate actions and to indicate state of being. State of being verbs are also called be verbs, am, is, are, and they are different formats depending upon the tense. So which will be am, is, are, was, were, has been, have been, had been, all these things. And action verbs are hardcore action verbs. Eat, sleep, go, play, all these words are action words, and action words are the words which denote some actions. In this case, we can see that winter is coming. The word is helping the main action verb come to materialize, to realize its proper meaning. So here the be verbs which help the main verbs to realize and to materialize in the fullest extent are called auxiliary verbs or helping verbs, and the main action verbs are main verbs. We know that verbs denote action, but do you know that verbs also denotes the time of action? Yes, actions can happen anytime, and it can happen earlier, it can happen now, or it can happen later. Based on this idea, we come up to the idea of tense and time. That is how in English language we say there are three types of tenses and time: past tense, present tense, and future time. Yes, we call it future time because the word tense means that an action that has already happened, or the action is in progress. So that means there is a certainty of the action. But in case of future, there is only prediction, no certainty, and hence past tense, present tense, and future time. Verbs can be used in different formats in a particular sentence, and how they materialize, how they are realized in a sentence. We can broadly categorize the general action verbs into two types: regular or irregular. If they are materializing in a very regular fashion, then they are regular, and otherwise they are irregular. Let's take how they behave in past and past participle form. Also, the present form of verbs are called base verbs. Let's take go. Go, present or base, went, past, gone, past participle. Walk, walk, walked, walked. See, see, saw, seen. Play, play, played, played. There is a difference, right? So we can see that go, went, gone, play, played, played, see, saw, seen, eat, ate, eaten, drink, drank, drank, read, 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 write, wrote, written. So many different ways, right? While there are some verbs which actually follow the rule that past has to have ed or d attached to the main verb, and the participle form has edd or d, ed or en. But there are verbs which do not abide by any rules. So based on these tendencies of the verbs, we can have regular verbs and irregular verbs. The reason why this type of disparity occurs is we know that English is a language which has developed from an amalgamation of a different varieties of languages. English is actually of Germanic origin, but over the period of time it has got Roman influence, and it has also got French influence and Viking influences as well. And hence, wherever English has been used, or whoever has invaded the English speaking regions, they have left some influence on this language. And when we have influence, we obviously borrow some things, and that is how different types of verbs came in this language and enriched the language. And that is how this regularity and irregularity occurred. Regular verbs are called weak verbs, and irregular verbs are called strong verbs. No, they are not weak and strong based on their effectiveness. The fashion how the verbs occur in past and past participle, the verbs can be called as weak verbs and strong verbs, regular verbs and irregular verbs. Regular verbs are called weaks, and irregular verbs are called strong, not because of the effectiveness of their action. Rather, in my opinion, the root goes back to the words, the languages and all the history it came from. We know that the different words came from different other languages, different other cultures. So in my opinion, the verbs which could still retain their idiosyncrasies even after all these English is not that old, even after all these years, let's say years, they are sort of strong verbs. Because they are strong, they could retain their characteristics. And weak verbs are who decided to assimilate with the whole system, the language, and go with the flow. Well, they are not strong. Let's call them regular and irregular. Regular, they follow the rules. Irregular, they have rules of their own. In the nouns section, if you remember, we studied about verbal nouns. Verbal nouns are the nouns that have derived from verbs. So that means if we know the nouns, we can actually use them as verbs by adding something in the front or something in the back. If we add some parts, some sounds or some part of words before, then they are called prefix, and which are added after, they are called suffixes. When we add these prefixes or suffixes, we help building more words, and that is how, with the help of prefixes and suffixes, we can build verbal nouns, or we can know what are the verbs that gave rise to the verbal nouns. Some of the examples are AC. If we use AC as a prefix, company, a noun, accompany. So accompany becomes the verb. Be, fool, buffoon, friend, noun. Befriend, making someone your friend, that is a verb. That is how, using prefixes, we can make more verbs. So that is all for today. Do suggest what are the other topics we can take up in the next sessions. Till then, take care. Comment, like, share and subscribe. Bye.